Welcome to the Fixin Your Crown Boo podcast. It's a podcast to interview dope people in leadership who use the model of servant leadership and are driven by emotionally intelligent leadership frameworks and styles. They're also passionate about lifting others up to empower their success because the pie, it is big enough for all of us, and we can all find a seat at the table. Your host for today, my name is JD Johnson. I am a coach, consultant, and career strategist turned entrepreneur. I am originally from Toronto, Canada, but I've been living and working in the Bay Area for the last 10 years. I have over 20 years of experience in a variety of industries, including manufacturing, telecommunication, customer experience, retail, CPG, and technology. And I've spent the last 8 years as a consultant with expertise in project and program management with a little dash of change management. In my consulting career, this is where I discovered my passion for leadership development and emotionally intelligent-driven leadership frameworks and styles. My dream, I want to change the organizational culture landscape by transforming the relationship between employers, managers, and employees by addressing how new and emerging managers or leaders are not prepared for the people side of leading teams. Here today, I have my guest, Victoria Vic Houston, who is a consultant originally from NYC. She has an MBA from WGU with over 10 years of experience leading cross-functional teams across industries. She is known for being highly effective, technically current, and creative. When it comes to developing and implementing scalable systems and procedures, her leadership style focuses on increasing program efficiency, improving follow-through, and fostering collaboration, especially in complex and high-stakes environments. Thanks to her cross-cultural awareness and people-first mindset, she helps teams cut through the noise and deliver real impact. At her core, Vic is mission-minded leader and a transformation strategist with a heart for people and a bias for action. With roots in consulting and a track record of driving change across government and tech, Vic specializes in navigating ambiguity, building culture, and creating outcomes that actually stick. She believes that emotionally intelligent leadership is the real fix, and she is all about building a community, not just consensus. Welcome, Vic.
Hi, JD. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. Anything you want to add to your little intro there?
Oh, I'm also an entrepreneur. I have my own business. It's called VEH Services, where we assist people in redeveloping, revamping their resumes, preparing for interviews with interview prep, providing business etiquette courses, and running workshops, including retrospectives to get leadership back to where they need to be.
Love it. Yes. Where can they find you if they want to know a little bit more about your entrepreneurial side?
It's going to be vehservices.com.
Awesome. All right. Getting us started today in our conversation, I would love to hear about something that you are passionate about professionally.
Professionally, I really like to develop the next generation of leaders, of program managers, of entrepreneurs in general. I like to see people who have been dismissed or underestimated kind of grow into who they want to be and be the person that shows them that they can do whatever they want. I strongly believe in never telling yourself no, especially when it comes to your own career. If you believe you could do it, go ahead and try it and let the hiring manager or whoever it is say that perhaps you're not the one for the role, but never try to downplay your own strategies and your own structure for what you've seen in the past. Just keep pushing forward. And I think that I carry that in all throughout life. But when it comes to professionalism, I really like to push that on my mentees and on all the people that I really work with on the day-to-day.
I love it. That reminds me of one of my favorite sayings, which is you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
So true.
So you gotta sometimes just go for it. Even though it's scary, courage is really being scared, but doing the thing anyway. So I love that thought.
Exactly.
As we get into it, I'm just kind of curious, what would you say was the most defining moment in your career?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say the most defining moment for me was when I took the shift from being an editor to being a program manager and chief engineer for the government. I have my English degree, and so it was really easy for me to get into the door as an editor, whether it be a technical editor or a creative writer or anything like that, knowing that I wanted the program position or a manager position, within months, I would typically start doing other things, and then they would shift me out of that role. So whenever I would leave a new company, if I didn't land the program manager position that I wanted initially, I would apply for the editor position. And then within 4 to 6 months, I would end up in the position I originally wanted. So I thought that was a great way to kind of mosey your way into the door and show people what you could do, even if you don't have the certifications or if you don't have the titles. If you know how to do it, then just go and do it. And I think doing that shifted me so savagely from an editor now to a principal program manager. But before that, I was a deputy chief engineer for the National Nuclear Security Administration. And it's crazy to go from an editor to a deputy chief engineer in a year and a half. So I think that was one of my biggest, proudest moments.
Wow. Yeah. And so you should be. That is a huge shift. And I think you really kind of talked about something important of sometimes you don't get the role you want, but if you can get into the company you want, then you have a better chance of moving into another position, especially if you have the attitude and the skills to do it.
Exactly.
So we talked a little bit about your defining moments. What was your biggest struggle, or what is your biggest struggle as a leader?
As a leader, I would say my biggest struggle is letting people fail. I think that one of the things that's really difficult for me is to know that I can do something, know that someone else can do it, but they're doubting themselves so savagely, and not step in and take the reins or say, you should do this. I've kind of shifted my shoulds to coulds, giving people options to choose from, but I've gotten so used to just taking the reins and driving it, no matter how tired or overloaded I am. And I think that's one of my biggest struggles. I'm still getting over that. I still do carry a lot of stuff, but I need to better understand that pushing things down the line and delegating is not a weakness. It's actually a strength. Being able to believe in your team and grow your team, because everybody as a leader should want the people on their team to one day be better than them. So you need to lead with professionalism and strength, as well as understanding and clarity. So the people that you are working with also feel that, and they feel as though they can execute in the same way. If you're always driving, you never give anybody the opportunity to shine.
Ooh, I love that. You want to give your people an opportunity to shine. And I think I thought I heard something really interesting in there. One of my things, as I mentioned earlier, was about how do we help first-time leaders and managers, or just, still early leaders and managers? How do we help them do that people side of things? Because what I've seen in my career is that usually people are just kind of thrown into leading people, and maybe they're fantastic at the job. Maybe they even can delegate, but the people side of performance management, the giving feedback, the connecting organizational goals to them, to the work that each individual employee is doing, and then helping them figure out how to develop professionally, that also helps the company as well as helping themselves shine. How did you feel when you were an early leader, that how well prepared you were to be a people person?
I thought I was prepared because I know how to get people to do the things I want them to do. That comes out a little narcissistic, but it is true. I am very good at that. So I thought that's all I needed to do, was to be able to smooth talk people to get them to do it. But as a people leader, you need to step out of just that and really, excuse me,
Bless you.
but as a people leader, you need to step out of that and have an understanding of what the people on your team need, what they care about, and what they want. Because if you can apply to what they care about and what they want, they'll stay with you and they'll work harder, and they'll also build on themselves. But if you only focus on kind of what they need, then you'll be giving the bare minimum. So I found myself at times hyper-focused on the work that I was doing and giving people the bare minimum emotionally, empathetically, and that did not help my team strive. Once I started talking to them as individuals, as people, having coffees, going out, having our Friday beers at the breweries, and actually getting to know them and understand their situation, I had a better understanding of how their life was going, why they dropped the ball on that program. Oh, their kid is sick. Perhaps let me lift this little piece away from you and let you focus on something you're really strong at, because you're clearly feeling defeated. So being able to bounce off of what your people are feeling and give them what they need to still fulfill that work and still feel like they're striving and being challenged without pushing them down. Knowing that when there is a delay or an issue, recognizing those hiccups, not as a failure, but more as a something is not right with the person that I talk to every day. This is not the type of person they are. So being able to build those relationships made it easier for them to come and talk to me and be honest with me when things were going on, whether that be them being sick or a family member having something happen or just feeling uneasy at work because of org changes and people being concerned that they're going to get fired. So building that relationship really helped me. It took me about a year to really get that down, especially in the government. There's a lot of contractors cycling in and out, so there's a lot of relationships to build. But once I realized that my main job was leading people and working with people, and execution, while still important, was secondary, that really made a shift in my leadership style.
Oh, I love that. I feel like you talked about a lot of really good, juicy things there. I think one thing I want to kind of dig into, which is in change management, there's this whole idea of the within, what's in it for me. And I think when you talk about getting to know people, that's what you have to figure out when you're leading people is what is their within? What are they striving for? What are their goals? And then helping that connects back to the work and back to the organizational mission. I can't speak today. But I think that's really like a really juicy tidbit because how do you motivate people if you don't know what their motivators are?
Exactly. There's no way to. You can try to push it, and as they say, do unto others as you want done to you. That's not the way it works. Everybody's brain works differently. Everybody has different drivers. You just have to find out what those drivers are, and the sooner you do that, the more amicable and the better your relationship will be.
I agree. And I think that's something that I've seen in my career. I've been working for over 20 years. I've had 30 plus managers. I think a lot of managers are missing this connection between understanding motivators, which then in turn helps figure out what engages people, what motivates them. And then that in turn can be used to fuel getting the work that needs to be done.
Yep, that's pretty much right on point. Like if you can understand that driver, people will bend over backward for you. If you show how much you care, if you actually care, don't just do that surface level. How's your week going, John? Like, don't nobody care about that. You don't want the real answer to that. Something horrible may have happened. But when you actually do get down to the nitty gritty, if you do ask that question, they will tell you. They will tell you everything that is happening. And I think that builds a really good relationship. Even if they tell you that their dream is to leave this position in 2 years and become a senior program manager somewhere else or whatever. You need to be able to understand that, know that they don't owe you any allegiance or loyalty because this, at the end of the day, is a job, but provide them with the tools and the stepping stones to reach that goal. Because at the end of the day, if they do leave, they will suggest to other people this position. They will suggest to you as a manager. They will carry that with them. So when they also become people leaders, they know that their job is to make the people that they manage do their best, whether that's with you or with other people.
100%. And I think in consulting, I really saw that to be so true. The idea of even if you don't stay with the company that you're currently with, if it's a good experience on both sides, that creates credibility. And oftentimes people who love who they've worked with, they love their managers, they love their employees, they bring them along for the ride when they move to their next position. Yes. So I think it's so key to think about that credibility, that building such a good relationship doesn't just help in the moment. It sets everyone up for future success.
Exactly. Because you never know what your next opportunity might be. You might be working for your senior program manager. You might be working for somebody that you managed and you want to be able to be like, oh, this is great. You called me for this position because you know I'm great at it. Thank you.
Exactly. So it sounds like you're super supportive of your teams as you're leading them. So I'm curious as to who has been your biggest supporter or biggest cheerleader?
My biggest supporter, I would say I have two. One would be, of course, my wife. They have helped me through so much stuff. We moved several times for different positions. I was working full time while getting my MBA, while in a leadership program and slowly dying inside. And they just made sure that I had everything I needed at every point. If I had to get up and take a call at 8 p.m. in the middle of a movie, they weren't upset about it. They got to know my team, my bosses. So whenever they come into town, we all go out for dinner and stuff, and it's not awkward. So having them be consistent and having them kind of be a rock and cheer me on and knowing that everything in the background was still going to be taken care of was perfect. I think my other cheerleader would have to be my last boss in the government. His name was Thomas Tomasi. That man was a genius. He led a massive program, and I came in under him as an editor. And he's the one who saw on my potential and let me move to all of these different positions. They created positions for me to give me the visibility and the experience that they thought I could live up to and really excel in. And having somebody believe in me that much for a position that I had never had before with a company I had never worked with before was really eye-opening, that when people see something in you, they will push for you to have it, even if they have to go toe-to-toe with the government to create a new position. So I think having him was a great boost to my career as well as kind of my inner reflection.
Wow, that is so powerful having a mentor who really sees the best in you and is willing to go to bat for you. And that is just such an amazing, not only feeling, but just an experience. So thinking about like your mentor and who else in your life who has gone to bat for you, what has been some of the best feedback you've ever gotten and why?
I got in some really good feedback. I think some of the best feedback I got was recent from my most recent manager. Her name is Kathy Halls, and she's amazing. But I would say her best feedback she gave me was, you don't have to carry it at all to prove your value. And that kind of made me pause because it reminded me that being impactful isn't the same as being overloaded. It comes back to the point that delegation is not a weakness. Just because I can do everything doesn't mean I have to do everything. And it doesn't mean that if I don't, I'm not valuable. I show value in different ways. And it also gave me another view at work-life balance. Because before it was work, 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 do all the things, hit all the deadlines. And then even if it doesn't fall on your team, I would be doing late nights to make sure everything got done. And I was all, this isn't necessary. I don't need to do this. So her actually providing me with that information was really useful. I don't have to be a workhorse in order to prove that I'm really good at carrying the load.
Yes, and I feel like that's something you needed to hear because from my time working with you, I always remember thinking, girl, when do you stop? When do you sleep? So I'm glad somebody was able to get to you and make sure you don't kill yourself being amazing. You're amazing regardless, but you don't need to kill yourself.
Well, thank you.
So flipping that around, what is your trademark feedback that you tend to give people?
I tell people, okay, one of my favorite words is no. I know we've had this discussion in the past. I am the queen of no. And one of the things that I'm constantly telling people is that you can push back with care. Like assertiveness and empathy are not mutually exclusive. Just because you want to care about somebody, you want to get something done, does not mean you can't say no to them. So making sure that you carry your voice, that you're honest on what you can and can't do is really important. This is feedback that I give at every mid-year, every year-end review, at least to 2 people who ask me for feedback. Like, tell people no, especially when it comes to adding scope or adding resources. If you don't have the money, don't act like you do. Just say no. So I think that is something that I am constantly telling people.
Oh yeah, I think that is really powerful. I think there's this perception that in order to be amazing, in order to be great, we have to do everything and we can never say no to things. And I think it's really clear that we have to sometimes set boundaries. And I remember I was working for 12 different project managers and I was assisting them earlier on in my career. And so I have all these people coming to me and asking me for things. And I'll never forget what one of my bosses told me, which was, you know what, say yes and, so I would say it's sure, absolutely, I would love to help you with that. I've got this thing for X person, this thing for X person, and that thing for X person. Let's get us all together and talk about what is the priority for which thing. And I'm happy to get to it in the priority that we all decide on. And that was a really great way that he taught me to be able to say, sure, I'm willing to do the work, but we have to look at what is my workload and can this actually fit in for one person to do. So that was like my roundabout way of like setting my boundaries without making it look like I don't want to help, but making sure that they knew that I did want to help, but I did have a lot of work on my plate.
Which is good, because when you first said yes and, I was like, oh no, no. I was like, are we acting? Is this improv? I was like, girl, don't say yes to everything. Not yes and what else can I do for you? But then you turned it around on me. I was surprised. I was like, oh no, JD, don't do that. But you're right. Being able to set those boundaries and set priority is important. I think another thing that people always miss is to run your own race. Everybody thinks just because you join a new position or you're taking over a project or something from somebody else, you have to do it exactly the way that they did it. You don't. So you do not. Comparison is the thief of joy and growth. You do not have to be like anybody else. You do not have to be a copy or a clone of what the last project manager was. If they said yes all the time, yay for them. They had the time to do that. If you do not, tell them you do not. Just make sure that you're true to who you are and what you can and can't do and the way in which you work, and then everything will pretty much fall into place.
Ooh. And you know what? I think that is not just applicable like in that scenario. I think it's applicable across the board. In this day and age, we can see what so many people are doing. And so many people, when they're showing what they're doing, they're putting their best foot forward, right? They're showing this fantasy world. And so I think we look at, oh, that person's doing that. That person's making that money. That person's at that company. And we're watching their journey and we're like, oh, why isn't my journey like that, right? And I think that's a piece of it, is being able to recognize that your race is your own. Your journey is your own. Nobody's journey looks exactly the same because we've all had different backgrounds, different cultures. We've had different experiences which shape how we choose to do things and where we ended up. And you can have a fantastic journey that doesn't have all the things that somebody else had. So I love like you pulling that piece out.
Yay.
All right. So keeping this flow going, I was kind of curious. We've talked about you being a leader, but we never really talked about like, what is your definition of leadership? What does leadership mean to you? And why do you even want to lead?
So to me, I would say leadership is creating clarity, being a model for integrity, and then also building up other people while you're driving towards your impact. Like leadership is, what does my mom say? Leadership is legacy work, not ego work. And I think more often than not, people think that in order to be a strong leader, you need to build on your own ego. That's not true. Your ego, you could build on your ego on Saturday on the golf course and just improve your swing. You can build your ego in other ways. You do not bring your ego to work, because all people are going to remember is that you're an egotistical tyrant. And that's not good. Nobody wants a leader like that. So many people have left great positions in great companies because they've had crappy leadership. So as a leader, you need to really lead with integrity. Make sure that everything you're saying is clear and consistent. You don't want to tell JD something and then tell Julian something completely different. And now everybody on your team is confused just because you wanted to keep that relationship or show face. You have to stay honest. You have to make sure that everybody's clear on what is happening, why it's happening. If you have information, especially as a leader, there's some things that you cannot share. You have to find a way to make people comfortable with the change or the things that are coming down the pipe, even if you may not have all of the information or you can't share the information. Make sure you push back to leadership, find out what you can and can't say, rather than pulling, the top secret of, oh, I can't tell you that. Or I cannot disclose at this time. I cannot confirm nor deny. Avoid that. Find out what you can say and be open and honest with your team on what is possible, what is not, and why, as well as what is driving your company, your program, and your project. If we lie to people, they'll remember that and they'll remember
Mhm.
that forever. And then it'll either sabotage their career or sabotage the way in which they become a leader, or all in all, you could just lose a star person. So being a strong leader is being clear and having integrity.
Oh, I love that. So, what would you say is your leadership style, and how does your leadership style show up at work?
I am a servant leader with a strategic edge. Try to make it sound all fancy. But basically, I kind of balance empathy with execution. So I make sure that I try to lead from behind. So when others are able to shine, or if they need to shine, or if you wrote this report, you stayed up for 12 hours and did this, I'm never going to say we, I'm never going to say I. I'm going to say JD built this whole PowerPoint last night. So if you love it, let her know. So that gives them, one, the opportunity to shine. And it also shows you as a servant because you're building that person up. That is your role. But at the same time, I can also be at the front line when tough calls need to be made. I'm never going to be like, well, that's your team. You need to figure that out. Right. I'm going to be like, okay, well, you brought this to me. You escalated it to me. Let's talk about options. Let me go talk to who I need to talk to get this fixed for you. So I'm able to take the lead. I'm able to go and, as I tell my team, stalk those people for you to get that answer. But I will never just snatch something away from you that you built, that you put your life into, and claim it as my own because I had to go make a call to a VP. And I think that leadership style has really served me well. All the programs, all the projects, all the different companies I've been in, people have always told me I'm a very bubbly, happy person. It makes it very easy for them to come and talk to me and know that I'm going to trust them and their capability to do their job. It's not until they come to me and tell me they need help, or it's very evident that they're failing at something, that I will step in and take the reins. But for the most part, it's a collaboration. And I like to collaborate with my teams and find out different ways to do things. Just because I do it one way doesn't mean it doesn't work better a different way. So making sure that I'm open to input makes me, I feel, a strong leader.
I think that is so key and so important. You hit on so many really, really great key leadership traits, from being able to recognize when you need to step up and when you need to step back, and let your team be able to lead and have their moment in the sun. I think that is so key and crucial. And I think we need more leaders who can work in service of their team and work to protect their team when it's needed, but work to step back so that they can shine. Because I think when you're leading a team, really, it's teamwork, right? Someone said this to me and I love this. Teamwork makes the dream work. So it's really it's not about it's about us working together and collaborating to come to the, solution or make this project shine that you need to. So I really love how you said that. How would you describe your communication style?
I would say, some people would say I'm blunt, but I'd say that I'm direct, but I'm thoughtful. Like, I don't do fluff. I am a New Yorker. I don't add fluff to anything. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, but I also don't kind of overstep my boundaries. I know how to hold space, but not be in your face at the same time. So I strongly believe in clarity and context and care, especially like when the stakes are really, really high in a program or in a situation. So I'm going to tell you exactly what needs to be happening, and I'm going to tell you why it needs to happen. You can figure out how. If you need help figuring out how, by all means, I'll help you. But no one will ever say, Victoria didn't tell me everything, because I did. You might not have heard it all, or you might not have listened, but I told you.
I can vouch for you being very direct, but you are always very thoughtful and caring in how you come across, and always trying to be able to make sure that the message gets across, but, avoid the kind of hurt feelings by doing it in a mean or overly blunt way. So yeah, I co-sign that.
Thank you, girl. Because I do try to ask them, like, do you need insight? Are you trying to vent? Or do you need a roadmap? And they're like, oh, I just want to vent. I'm like, okay, I'll put on my vent hat. Go ahead. I'm not going to try to fix your problem. But I need to understand what my role is in any conversation. So I make sure I give the person I'm talking to exactly what they came for.
You know what? That resonates with me so much. I had to learn so hard to ask, how do you want me to be in this conversation? Because me personally, my first thought is a problem solver. All right, you have this issue, you have this problem. All right, let's think about how we can fix this. But I started to learn that sometimes people just want to rant. They don't want you to fix nothing. They just want you to listen. And I had to learn how to show up in the way that was most effective and how they wanted me to show up. I didn't always have to try and fix a problem, but that is my go-to. So that resonates with me, being able to kind of categorize, okay, what are you looking from me right now in this conversation?
It's hard to do too, because
Oh my
me
gosh, just
too.
want to go right into that, your default mode, right? It's like,
Yes. I'm like, let's just fix it so we never have to talk about this again.
oh my gosh, yes. Especially if people are ranting about the same thing with no solutions for too long. Oh,
I can't do that. I can't do that. After 3 times, I'm like, we're either going to fix it or you're not going to tell me about this again. Because you don't want it to be fixed. You just want to vent about it, or you just want to just hold on to it. And I'm not the person to hold on to it with you.
right? There's only so many times you can rant about a thing with me. And then after a point, it's like, now I need to go into fix it mode. And if you're not fixing it, let's not rant about it to me.
Mhm.
Find a new person. I love you, but find a new person.
Exactly.
So thinking about, you just talked about your communication style. I'm also curious about what or who has been your biggest influence on your leadership style and how you lead or why you lead.
I would say the biggest influence would be I have a mix. So I have a mix of individuals who I've seen lead that I never want to lead like, who have made me the type of person that I am. I'm not big on volunteering people ever since I left, military government work. And you get voluntold to do everything. I was like, oh, never again. But I came into the private sector. I was like, oh, we can't live our life this way. So working under some of those government types and some of like the military personnel that I had to serve under when I was working on bases as a base records manager, and the way in which they worked, I was like, this is great for this type of work, but it's not great for the civilian world, for people who are not used to being told to do things without any background of why in the world am I doing this. So I hold true to that, to my early career of what I don't want to be. When it comes to my biggest influence on what I do want to be, that takes me back to my current manager, Kathy Halls. I'm gonna keep saying that woman's name because she is one of the strongest leaders, and it also helps that she is a strong Black woman. She's from Kenya, and she works so hard. She sets her boundaries. When I call her and I could call that woman crying and be like, these people are driving me crazy. And we'll just talk about, she's like, well, let me tell you what I'm putting in my garden. And then she'll calm me down. We'll have a whole conversation of what I can do, what I should do, what I should delegate. She's a very strong, dedicated individual. She leads with love, she leads with strength, and she leads with stillness. She kind of taught me that quiet power is still power. Being able to lead behind the scenes and influence people is really, really important, especially in the positions that we hold. And I just love the way that she has developed her just professional, just mystique. Like she has this way about her that whatever you give her, it's going to get done. It's going to be done well. And she's going to do it with a smile, even if she's not happy with you. She's going to get it done, and she's going to let you know this is done. The way that we spoke last week was unacceptable. Never do that again. But let's start over and let's move forward with our next program. And I think reflecting on that and seeing how she works and the inner workings of kind of her career has really influenced the way in which I drive mine.
I think that is so important to have a leader that you admire and one who models behavior that you internalize and you take in and you use it moving forward. So Kathy, go Kathy. Give her a shout out right here.
Yes.
So thinking about, your influencers who influence how you lead, what would you say are like your top, let's say 3 to 5 biggest keys for leading teams or projects?
biggest keys, I would say decision ownership, making sure that you are structured for adaptability and not just delivery. Nothing's ever going to go exactly as you plan it out. And you need to not get stressed and not lose your mind when it happens. You need to be able to pivot. I think that creating psychological safety for dissent as well as ideas is a great way to drive a program, to drive a team and people in general. You want to make sure they know that they can come and talk to you about anything, right? If they're saying we're using Workday for this, perhaps we should use so-and-so. Understand why. You can't say, well, this is the way we always did it. Just because you always did it that way don't mean it's right.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure you're open to that, and then having clarity of vision and clarity of roles. A lot of people are afraid to do races. Races are your best friend. I swear. So many times people will say, I'm going to do it, and then it doesn't get done. Or if there's unclear decision ownership, when everyone's responsible, nobody's responsible. So nobody gets it done. So if you have clarity of your roles and clarity of the vision that you guys are racing towards, I think that you have a better grouping, a better understanding across your team, and then you can hold people accountable to what they agree to. Now, don't make your racy by yourself in the dark and then just say, this is what you have to follow. You have to build the bones, work with the team, get agreement on it. So if and when you do have a problem, you could say, you remember 3 months ago, we talked about this, Racy, and how you agreed that all product decisions would fall to you. This is a product decision. This falls to you. And then they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And you're like, yeah, I know you did. But you
gotta bring that racing view everywhere.
Listen, the Racy goes everywhere. I need to put it in my wallet sometimes. But having that clear delineation of who's responsible for what will always make leadership easy, will make management, project, program, product, whatever type of management that you're in, move so much smoothly.
Ooh, those are some really, really good ones. I think my favorite that you said was psychological safety. I am such a huge proponent of creating psychologically safe spaces for people to come and talk to you, where what you've said is in confidence, where what you said, they can say what needs to be said that's in their heart and their mind without judgment, without, causing them to, I don't know, lose faith or lose standing. Because sometimes, that's how you get the best feedback, right? Where people feel psychologically safe to say what's in their minds and their hearts, obviously in a, professional, and caring way. But to be able to have space to talk openly, I think that is such a key piece of leading teams and being a people leader, because you need to have that perspective of what's going on in their heads so that you can make the best decision.
Yep. And you don't want to ruin that relationship, right? You don't want somebody to come to you, tell you something, thinking that it's just between you two, and then it ends up in one of their reviews or one of their feedbacks, because now you've burned that relationship. You've showed that they can't tell you anything.
Right.
So even when it comes to simple professional work things, they feel like they can't come to you. And you never want anyone on your team to feel that way, or to feel like you have lost their trust or kind of broken them in a way. That's not healthy, and that's never what a peer, let alone a leader, should do.
Yeah, I totally agree. Definitely had it go both ways. So I am such a proponent of holding that space and making sure people feel psychologically safe when they come to me. I think also by having and creating that space, it allows your feedback to be more powerful, for you to have better developmental conversation, because you can really understand what's driving and motivating your team, and how do you connect their next 2 years goals to the work that they're doing, and also to allow you to provide them with opportunities to grow in that way, because that's what they want. And that's what's going to motivate them when they can see that A, you've got their back, B, you are giving them the opportunity to prove themselves and to grow in the way that is exciting and motivating to them, and C, they see that you're honest. So I'm such a key proponent of that.
That's healthy, I think, because people get lost in what work is. Work is a community, and you can't have a community if there's no trust, if there's no safety.
100% agreed. So I'm going to turn this a little bit for our last little bit of time, and I want to talk a little bit about How do you manage your career and your growth trajectory? You talked a little bit about, never say no, but what else what are the keys that you use to continue growing and reaching the goals that you set for yourself?
So I try to be intentional about setting my vision, not just my goals, because goals can change, right? So if you have a vision of your life, if you have a vision of the next 5 years, you need to understand what that is and then set steps to do it. Because if there are no steps, it's not a goal, it's a dream. So one of the things we do, I do hold a yearly party at my house with all my friends. They come over. I know some people say they're played out, but we make vision boards. And we, rather than just putting the pretty pictures on the board and stuff like that, we have people from different facets of life all around the table, different careers. We have massage therapists, we have program managers, we have entrepreneurs, we have parents, we have everybody at the table. So as we complete our vision boards, we actually talk about what we want them to be. And we get feedback from people who have surpassed that or people who are trying to do the same thing. So we can actually get an understanding of kind of what are the steps for that. And then personally, I reflect on mine quarterly. I look at what I've done to reach that year end goal or that 5 end goal, and then alter my course if necessary or just build upon my steps. One of the things I also do is I seek mentorship often. I love talking to people who have been where I've been, succeeded in where I've succeeded, like just are staples of where I want to be or where I think I can reach to. You should never be the smartest person in the room. If you are the smartest person in the room, you should be in a different room because you are not going to grow. And in order to really grow and to have any trajectory, you need to be able to learn from other people. And then the last thing I do is I say yes to a lot of stretch assignments. I take on all types of random initiatives. Right now, I'm on the culture force at my company, which is building all of these different ways to get back feedback, to make sure we have psychological safety, to make sure that we're incorporating other people's identities and beliefs. Like if we are going to have a potluck and it's during Ramadan, maybe we don't have that potluck. The team can't eat anything till the sun goes down. That's not nice, right? But making sure that you say yes to those different stretch assignments, the things that are going to take you somewhat out of your comfort zone, because those are the things that are going to make you grow. Those are the things that are going to make you look at things differently, whether it applies directly to your position or to something that you're reaching for in the future. Everything that you do is going to give you another tool in your arsenal. So if you have the time, if you have the bandwidth, if you have the capacity to do it, or even to learn how to do something new, then do it. Go ahead and do it. Don't always sit down and turn on your anime. That's me. I just sit and watch anime all day. But go ahead and do something that you're not used to. Maybe have a day where you don't watch TV. Maybe you read every Wednesday and you just vibe out to your lo-fi vibes or something like that. But do something that's going to make you grow, something that you're not used to. And I think that that's always going to grow you. If it's not directly related to your career or your professional trajectory, it'll grow you as a person. And that will also assist in your professional journey. A lot of people think it's just being book smart or knowing how to build a change management plan or know how to do the data analysis. It's not just that. You must be socially inclined to discuss and work with other people. And in order to do that, you need to do inner reflection. And I think that inner reflection, my vision, my goals, my mentorship, all of that stuff really paces me to continue to grow and reach the trajectory that I've set forth for myself.
I love that. I think I want to dig into one of the things that you were talking about, which was having mentors. I'm always curious, for you, have mentors just kind of come naturally, like just, people you've worked with, your boss, or have people seeked you out, looked for you? How have you found your best mentors?
I've found my mentors typically from people that I've met, individuals in my circle. I have a lot of people from different walks of life. I have a lot of military friends. I have a lot of corporate friends. I have a lot of entrepreneur friends. So while I'm doing different facets of my life, I connect with them, but also connecting with people through networking events has been amazing. I've gone to so many conferences and people give out their cards or like their LinkedIn information. People never reach out to them. I am not that person. If you're going to give me that information, I asked for it, which means I wanted it. So I'm going to bother you. And it's nice to find the people who actually mean well. They gave you that information for a reason, not just to expand their name. I've run into so many people that are like, oh, I'm so happy you reached out to me. Yes, I can teach you about that. Yes, I can walk you through that. And I think putting yourself out there, you'll be able to find mentors that you never thought that you could. I've met so many people that I did not know were like SVPs or CEOs of companies that I have just talked to randomly at a resort in Mexico. And they just started talking about finance. And I was like, oh, let's talk about it. And I whip out my little piece of paper because I always have a notebook. I am that person. And I've taken notes and I've stayed connected with those individuals. And through doing that, I've kind of been able to learn more and get into different industries and things that I never thought that I would, just by being more sociable and listening to people for what they have to say, not for what you can get from them. Because when people talk about the things that really drive them, if you're in tune with that, they'll grow you without even realizing it.
Oh, I love that what you just said at the end, which is, not for what they can do for you, just to learn from them. I think that is so powerful. So I'm also curious, like, there's this thing, I did a course a few years ago, and it was called Making Power Moves. And I'm curious, what would you say were your top 3 power moves?
Ooh. Okay. I would say leaving my role as, and please don't hurt me, Molly, I still love you, but leaving my role as a consultant to transition to a principal program manager, and my role in tech was definitely a strategic shift that allowed me to scale my impact. As a consultant, it was great. I got to hop around to all these different companies. I got to be a chief of staff. I got to be a program manager, a project manager, a product manager. And while all of that was fine and dandy, I realized in the program management roles and the chief of staff roles exactly what it is that I wanted to do. So taking control of my own career path and making that shift, I think was amazing for me as a power. Another thing was pursuing my MBA while I was working full time. I carved my own path and timeline. I basically provided myself with an outline of what success looks like to me, not what it looked like to anybody else. And even if that was long nights and stress weight and my skin wasn't as shiny as it was supposed to be, at the end of the day, I was able to reach the goals that I wanted. So taking that time, step away, not being as sociable to work on myself and build my career, I think was a big power move. It's something I push for people. Like, we're going to be friends. We're going to be friends regardless. I don't mind not seeing you for 3 months because you need to go be heads down to study for this test. That's great. I love seeing you succeed. And I hope that other people feel that same way about me. So I think pursuing my goals, no matter kind of the impact that it is to my quote unquote social life, was a big power move. And then I think launching my career, like launching my new company, was definitely a power move for me. I did not wait for permission to advocate for my community and for equity, right? I made my seat at the table. And I said, this is not available to the demographic that I wanted to send it to. I did not overprice. I did not try to scale out the people who actually needed the help, who needed the work, who needed to understand how to interview and present themselves to land that job, whether it be a DevOps person or a coder or even a program manager or a waitress, right? A lot of people don't know how to present themselves equitably so they can land the roles that they need. And I luckily have learned that over the years from moving a plethora of times and having to kind of infiltrate friend groups, infiltrate like cliques in high school and middle school and all of that stuff. So making sure that you take the time to do what you need to do is important. If you are not given a seat at the table, take it or go make your own table. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially out here in America. There are so many small businesses and so many businesses that have seats, or they only want a certain demographic of individuals. You don't fit that demographic, that's fine. You don't need to be in their little secret team or their little secret club. That's cool. Go make your own table, invite the people you want to it, and do what gives you joy. Don't try to fit the shoes of somebody else just so you can be where they say the seat of power is. You decide where your seat of power is.
I love that last piece about making your own table. If they don't want to give you a seat, make a table with the people who you want to sit with. That just resonates with me so strongly. Well, we're almost at time. I always like to give like a last call to kind of say any last thoughts, anything we didn't talk about that you want to, that's on your heart and you want to share for the audience.
I would say just keep doing what brings you joy and keep working the way that works for you. Too often do we try to fit the mold of somebody else. That's not going to work for you. There's going to be resentment. You're going to hate your job. You're going to hate your life. People forget that, yes, we're at these jobs 40 plus hours a week. Ooh, you have your little 2 days off on the weekend. That's great. But if you're in a position that you hate, you're going to hate your life. So make sure that you kind of frame your position, frame your career around things that bring you joy. Don't try to just stuff in joy for the 16 hours that you get on the weekend. Make sure that you reflect on that and that you find different ways to find your peace and to make yourself feel like you're giving back what you feel like you need to give back, whether that's more or less, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. So make sure that you are taking care of yourself and you're doing the things that you like to do in order to live the life that you want to live.
Agreed. Joy, doing things that give you joy really do fill your cup. And when your cup is full, you can share with other people. So love that. All right, Vic. That's it for us today. This has been amazing. As always, not only are you funny, you're graceful, you are always got so many good things to share and you resonate with everyone. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to pick your brain.
Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited for this. Oh, I can't wait for this to explode and for everybody to hear all of the awesome things and the beautiful ways that different people lead with empathy and lead with strategy and lead with care, because I think that is lost in our day and age. And I'm so happy that you have this podcast that reminds people that that is necessary to be a good leader.
Absolutely. My whole goal, I called it Fixin Your Crown Boo because, like when you go to the washroom and you see a girl, her tag is sticking out, or like she's got a leaf in her hair. I've always been that person who's like, Miss, you look phenomenal, but let me just take this little leaf out your hair. You're done. It's all about, doing those little touches up to fix everyone's crown, because I think we all deserve it. We all deserve to have a seat at the table or make our own table if that table won't work for us. And I just want to help fix our crowns.
Exactly. Everybody can succeed. It's not one or the other. We all have the opportunity to do well.
Absolutely. And the more we help others, the bigger that table gets, the bigger the pie gets. It's kind of crazy. It's not a zero-sum game. So thank you for helping fix our crowns here today. And I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thanks, JD. I will keep you posted on the fun, ridiculous things that I do in my life.
Always. All right. Well, we'll talk soon and have a great day. And to my audience, hope you enjoyed today's session of Fixin Your Crown Boo. You will be able to see us upcoming soon. Thank you very much.